Hey there, welcome to episode 166 of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, Managing Director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, a Nevada nonprofit corporation, a 501c3 public charity in our fourth fiscal year, coming to a close on the 30th of June, 2026. Good times. Today's title and topic, Simple Machinery. It's going to be sort of some ideas, some ideation around getting through this civic volunteer winter in which we find ourselves. We're not the only ones. If you look around on the internet, you'll see there's pockets of springtime, but we are still in the winter. Simple Machinery on this April 21st, 2026. Did I ever say the date? It's 10:40 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas. If you're not familiar with the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program, or perhaps you don't even know what the Innovate for Vegas Foundation is, very briefly, the Innovate for Vegas Foundation is a reboot and standalone nonprofit civic volunteer organization. All volunteers, top to bottom. No matter how many hats I wear, I am absolutely uncompensated volunteer through and through. That's only too common, unfortunately. No, I do this for the good of all involved and then some. We are pursuing various community elevation initiatives, our purpose statement on file with the Secretary of State of Nevada and part of our filings with the IRS to enable and encourage ideation, innovation, and implementation to make our communities better. Our Apex initiative, this is an initiative that encompasses all of our, or most of our initiatives since our inception, since our reboot of Code for Vegas some 4 years ago. The Apex initiative is to make our smart city smarter. And that doesn't have to be with technology. We did rename from Code for Vegas to Innovate for Vegas to escape that initial presumption that we are only code. Code is everything, must be tech. These are not true. Anyone who wants to be innovative, why not? Innovation can take many forms, pretty much any shape, size, color, leaning, doesn't matter. I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about innovation. Innovation is the future. So we are considering the future of Vegas and how we might all participate in it in one way or another. The Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program explores what we are working on. So our initiatives, our component projects, our tools, our methods, stuff in general, just like today's episode, Simple Machinery. How can we reach more people, especially during this cold civic volunteer winter? Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary. There are 3 episode links today, 2 the usual and 1 a Wikipedia link. Very exciting. So let's get to the summary so we can get through the show today. Vegas is a strange place when it comes to inviting innovation. Well, the invitations are easy. It's the RSVPs that appear to go missing. So let's ponder some simple machines to help make this work. So machinery, we'll talk about simple machines first, and then we'll talk about our simple machinery. These are not necessarily physical objects, but hopefully you'll get the idea. We're trying a little something new today. It's too easy to talk about projects and initiatives and challenges and so on. Today we're just getting a little bit more theoretical. The links, as usual, Innovate for Vegas is spelled out. So Innovate FOR Vegas. We have one site and URL for our sort of activities, our civic volunteers, the initiatives, the people doing it, making it happen. innovateforvegas.org. You can click on the link or you can type that in, innovateforvegas.org. That is hosted on GitHub, if you're curious, GitHub pages. That's where our initiative repositories and issues and Agile for Volunteer stuff is found. Then there's the Innovate for Vegas Foundation website. That's innovateforvegas.foundation. That's the business side, the boring stuff. As I mentioned, we are a Nevada nonprofit corporation. We have a board of directors. We have bylaws. We file our 990 with the IRS each year. We pay fees, all kinds of stuff. Some of it's on that website. As it has been winter, we are not scrambling too much to publish. A lot of the stuff we have is published in our gratis Google Workspace. So the bylaws, for example, they exist as a Google document. So we'll publish that as a markdown document. There's no reason for that to not be public. Our budget information is mostly with our online fintech services, and not to mention our Stripe account for processing incoming payments. Those come every once in a while. We haven't really pushed any donation drivers, so there's not much in the way of donations to talk about. It makes our 990 filings very easy, but that's where all that will live as we get more stuff online and published for public consumption. As everything is, we don't really do anything too secret. Passwords, that's about it. That's about the only stuff that's secret. Everything else is open source, open for public scrutiny, inspection, certainly open for public participation. Simple Machines, a Wikipedia link. Simple Machine is the Wikipedia link, but they have the 6 simple machines described, and then there's actually a Wikipedia page for each of the 6 simple machines. If you're not familiar with these, or if you've never thought about simple machines, that's probably not a good thing, since simple machines are covered at some point during elementary school in a science class, most likely. I'm having some coffee during this recording session, so if we don't mind if I take a sip. Coffee, it's what makes the world go round. I'm going to compare the 6 physics-oriented simple machines to our 6 machines, our simple machinery that we are using to try to, or be prepared for the soon, I hope, coming civic volunteer springtime, when we can re-engage with the world and get people involved and proceed with more than one person working on pursuing and implementing and so on. Counting down. So let's talk about simple machines, just in case you have no idea what I'm talking about. I think we all came across this classic when we were in elementary school, hopefully, anyway. Interacting with the world becomes slightly more intuitive with these core principles in mind in the form of these machines. So just in case you did not come across these in an academic setting, because you definitely come across them in the world, in the real world around you, you encounter these probably daily in one form or another. And you don't want to check out the Wikipedia page maybe for some reason. And by the way, I will remind you, as I always do, Wikipedia is a fine place to begin the exploration of a particular topic. If you want to learn more about something, start at Wikipedia. But very rarely should you end your quest for knowledge and understanding there. I think Wikipedia is a great place to point to refer to as a starting point. There are always additional links to outside references and resources. If you really want to learn more about simple machines, I highly recommend clicking on those links, external and otherwise, to learn more. But hopefully you learn about this stuff in school. Let's go through them. First, the lever. These come in 3 classes, at least 3 that I know of. Basically, load force, that's the moving mass, the thing that you want to move, is with gravity, applying a torque. With gravity, applying a torque somewhere on your lever. So usually there's a mass and some gravity. So it's applying a force, F equals ma, at a distance, R cross F. So applying a torque somewhere on your lever, a moment arm, and the driving force is applying a torque somewhere else on your lever, ideally resulting in a mechanical advantage and the movement of your moving mass. So put a lever on a fulcrum, put it under a heavy object, you push down on the longer moment arm that multiplies your force, and you'll be able to move some heavy object at the other end of your lever, on the other side of the fulcrum. That's a particular class of lever. You can move the load, the applied force, as it's often called, and the fulcrum around, and those are the different classes of levers. Pretty neat. The inclined plane, you probably came upon these any time during the day. You have come upon them, I should say, as ramps. For example, they convert force in one direction to motion in 2 directions. So you apply a force, say, into the ramp. You're approaching the ramp. You keep pushing forward for you, relative to you. And your object that you're pushing will move forward and up, hence the ramp. The angle of your ramp determines how much force is directed in the vertical direction. So a heavy object can be moved up the ramp more easily if the ramp is used at a lower angle, and that usually means the ramp must be longer. So you'll cover a longer distance moving up the ramp in order to reduce the amount of effort you need to exert the force to move your heavy object vertically. It makes sense when you think about it, right? The inclined plane, the wheel and axle. Obviously, you come upon these all the time. We all do, usually by way of usually these are a way to turn sliding friction into rolling friction. And if you remember your high school physics, you'll definitely remember that. Try pushing your vehicle, whatever kind of vehicle it is, with the brakes engaged for some idea what the difference is between sliding and rolling friction. The wheel is a lever with a longer moment arm, and it's at its edge. Then the axle, let me correct I wrote and its edge, at its edge. I tried to come up with these descriptions from memory. We definitely talked about these in engineering at some point, the mechanical stuff. So try pushing your vehicle with the brakes engaged. The wheel is a lever with a longer moment arm at its edge, where the rubber meets the road, as they say. Then the axle, and if you want a great example of this working, find a bicycle with multiple gears. In that case, you have the axle, and then the different wheels, the radius of the wheels, change with the gear, and then the chain connects to another gear that has probably 2 or 3 different radii. So if you have like an 18 speed, it'll be 6 and 3, a 10 speed, 5 and 2. And so what you end up with is the multiplication of the levers at your pedal. At the ends of the pedal, you have your feet. So on each pedal, you're applying a force, and you're applying, so that ends up being a torque around the input. And then the gear will drive the gear attached and that you are in, if you have multiple gears, will through a chain or maybe a shaft on a motorcycle. I don't know if they have bicycles with shafts yet. You will apply a force, a torque, to the gears on the wheel, and that will end up with some torque multiplication, and you should be able to feel that when you're riding your bicycle. So you'll experience the full power of this simple machine, the wheel and the axle, through gears, gear ratios, torque multiplication. Rather famously, Steve Jobs, former CEO of Apple, one of the co-founders, was describing how humans are not very efficient when they are walking with their 2 legs, not 4 or more. But when you put a human on a bicycle, they become very efficient at motion, converting biolocomotion into physical motion. Well, biolocomotion is that, but they're converting the pedaling, the use of our muscles and so on, our 2 simple scrawny legs, through the use of torque multiplication through the gearing system of a bicycle, not to mention the radius of the bicycle wheels, into really, really efficient motion, arguably the most efficient wheels and axles. The screw, we're good. The screw, my first academic explanation of the screw, and this totally made sense to me, it was a very long time ago, was wrapping an inclined plane around an axle. So if we turn the axle and we move along the inclined plane so that the plane twists around, so it forms the screw, right? The little flanges. What are screws? What are those called? I didn't look that up. You know what I'm talking about. So it's like an inclined plane or ramp wrapped around the axle that is the screw length. So when you turn the screw, you convert the rotation into vertical motion by way of this inclined plane. Screws can be used to lift or open things, like a screw jack or jack screw. I believe that's the Wikipedia example. So for example, if you need to lift your car to change a tire, if you still have a car, if cars are still a thing, you can apply a rotational force to the jack screw. It will slowly lift your car, which is probably pretty heavy, probably too heavy to lift without a jack screw, if you like. Or you can use screws to fasten things, as in wood or machine screws. If you want to move up how those work, right? And so once you tighten that screw in, you basically have sort of an interference fit. So it's kind of helping keep the screw in place. And in machine screws, not so much. Usually there's a washer and a nut involved. I don't know if you call your friends a nut or not, but it could be. But the screw, the washer, the lock nut, sometimes You can apply some adhesive adhesive material. I can't remember what it's called, like Loctite, I think it is, to help reduce the possibility of the machine screw unscrewing. But wood screws basically work by keeping an interference fit, a force against the screw itself, and that prevents it from unscrewing. So you're keeping the fastening effect for the wood in wood furniture, for example. But usually you're going to use machine screws with inserts, because wood can split and all kinds of other fun things for another episode. You can also move a liquid up a hill with a screw. Consider an Archimedes screw, for example. Archimedes came up with the core simple machine idea with his studies of the lever, pulley, and screw. Hence the Archimedes screw, but the Archimedean machines are those three: lever, pulley, screw. The pulley a single pulley literally changes the direction of force, often making gravity an ally rather than an enemy for those heavy things. You might pull down on a rope, for example, passing over a pulley to lift something up. You've ever been to a gym, you've probably experienced this, where you pull down to lift a weight stack, depending on the machine you're using. Sometimes there will be multiple pulleys. A pulley is a wheel on an axle, and so a belt, for example, might transfer force from one pulley to another, often found on internal combustion engines, for example. But also the pulley with the belt is very similar to the bicycle gears, basically the same thing. For some really interesting uses, check out the block and tackle configuration, which is multiple pulleys attached to usually fixed anchor points, and this helps multiply torques and move objects of greater mass and so on. This, by the way, is why you must be careful in how you treat the indicated weight of a weight stack when you're using one or more pulleys on a machine. The actual weight you are lifting will depend on how many of those pulleys and how big the pulley is and so on. Hopefully the weights are calibrated with that in mind when they print the weight for each of the plates in a weight stack. The block and tackle, though, those are kind of a trip. The wedge, finally the wedge, essentially an inclined plane that still converts force in one plane to a force in a perpendicular plane, or some of the force. But a wedge is often used to split or open up something along that perpendicular plane. You may or may not split wood so often, for example, but maybe you have had a crate, maybe a wooden crate, closed with nails, or less often wood screws, but a wooden crate closed with nails, or what looks like big giant metal staples. You may or may not split wood, except for this configuration, perhaps. And you might place a wedge with this into the seam of the lid, where the lid meets the body of the crate. Tap it with a hammer. So you're tapping that wedge. You're pushing it in between the lid and the body of the crate. So you're attempting to split this and to put a force on the fasteners to allow them to give way. Maybe you have a pry bar or a claw hammer that you've used for such things. With each, you might use the wedge part of the either of these two to split that seam to get it in there initially, and then the leverage of the handle length to continue to open the lid. Hence the pry bar, but a hammer will do something very similar. Wedges are probably in use around us more often than we notice. A doorstop is wedge shaped, but it doesn't really do the same thing. But you've seen a wedge. So those are the basic simple machines. They are useful on their own, of course, but they can also be combined, obviously, or maybe not so obviously otherwise, to yield additional utility. The pry bar is an example where you combine the wedge plus the lever. The block and tackle is an example of combining multiple pulleys. Similarly, on a bicycle, you can combine multiple, they're essentially pulleys, but you're assigning multiple wheels and how they multiply torque across each other. The noteworthy thing, among many, is that simple machines are indeed simple. A lever or a ramp can often be made available with materials around us. Not always, but if we are in a suitably chaotic place with some spare parts around, there may be some of those, and maybe spare bars or wooden sheets or similar, and those can be used to make levers and ramps, for example. While simple machines are about physics, that's basically That's what it is, physics in action. They are mostly intuitive. They are useful without needing to understand moment arms and applied force and angle of inclination and all of these things. A starting point that remains useful ever after, though, once you understand how they work and why, if you choose to. And so this is a reasonable collection of items on which to base an analogy about our current challenge and what we can attempt to do to multiply effort and maybe change its direction or directions. So our simple machinery, okay, a little weirdness there. Our simple machinery, what do we have at our disposal? And again, we want to convert lack of awareness and maybe initial intention to action. We want people to essentially, so where with simple mechanical machines and physics, we usually want to move something. We want to move water from low to high. We want to move a crate from downstairs to the up a step, or to a raised deck, a loading deck of some sort. We want to move some weight for the sake of exercise, whatever it is. We're usually moving something from one place to another by changing the direction and mechanical advantage, the multiplication of our applied force. So we can move heavier objects, or we can, well, basically that. We want to multiply our input, our applied force, torque sometimes. So in our simple machinery examples, we definitely want to convert a lack of awareness to awareness, and then awareness to action. So we'll just say we want to convert inaction to action. So what do we have at our disposal? Well, let me begin by saying none of what I'm going to describe in our collection of machines here requires technology per se. There's no coding, no technical knowledge, just human intuition. Maybe the ability to interact with others, though in Vegas that is not always available. Ghosting is a big thing here. So here's our simple machinery as I would describe it, keeping in mind what we just went over. And these are not exact one-to-one, right? So there's not like agency as a lever. If you choose to try to draw those, that'll be great. That's extra credit for you. But our first tool, our first machine, agency. On the one hand, we are standalone. We're a Nevada nonprofit corporation, a 501c3 public charity. We are not formed as a fiscally sponsored entity. We don't report to anyone other than our governance. So we're out on the edge of civilization and nobody is looking for us. That's the other side of that coin. Most definitely no help or interest from the city of Las Vegas now that our one champion that used to be a part of the city, Don Jacobson, has left the building. Is this true of surrounding cities and of Clark County, the county in which we reside? Maybe. Maybe the other counties in Nevada, not sure. Maybe the entire state, the GOED and others. A lot of crickets thus far. Passive following of a LinkedIn page. Not much more than that. Often unresponsive via email outreach and similar. But we do have agency, so we can act as we see fit. And if people join, they are joining an entity that is not beholden to any other agency, any other organization. We are completely self-managed, autonomous. Doesn't that make you want to join right away? Necessity. The mother of invention, of course. The things around us that look like they need attention. They seem like they don't really work, or maybe they could work better. Invention and innovation go together like peas and carrots. So the more necessity, even if it has not yet been identified, the more the necessity, the more likely there will be an aha moment at some point if we can use some of the other machines effectively. So once there's greater awareness of what we are aiming to accomplish, and if we can show demonstrable progress towards things, actual, hey, look at this, the aha moment is, oh, okay. So if there's something that looks like it could use some attention from those of us who experience it, those of us living day to day, I usually say on the ground, that is not up in the penthouse of an executive building, but we are living life on the ground. We can collaborate and make our communities better by collaborating. That's part of our goal, our collection of goals. So necessity will become more obvious and more visible, and the aha moment more achievable by more people as we have all these machines working in concert together to convert that awareness to action. Action may be participation, or maybe telling a friend. Word of mouth is the third simple machine. The net promoter pipeline. Usually you'll find this as the net promoter score, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to tell a friend about the Innovate for Vegas Foundation and what they're trying to accomplish? But ideally, the word of mouth will lead not only to mentions, but to actual action. Like, oh, I do want to participate. This looks interesting. It looks like I can actually make a difference or help to make a difference. It's a legitimate way to get the word out, word of mouth. One thing I've noticed in the greater Vegas area, there is a reduced tendency to proactively reshare out in the world. I don't mean social network, social media, not a like or a share on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, but mentions and referrals out in the real world, humans interacting, talking about, referring, introducing, etc. Social media engagement is okay. I'm not saying it's not worth anything, but it's very passive. It doesn't take any real effort to like, share, even subscribe, as YouTubers are wont to ask. Don't forget to like, share. What is it? Like and subscribe. Click the bell. Do something else. There's a myriad of options to offer what is a net promoter score at the end of the day. But these are passive. Word of mouth here, what I'm referring to, literally speaking to other people. And this may be the machine that needs the most attention. The machinery of social human interaction. Yeah, we need more of that, just in general. But if people are energized and excited about possibilities, the future, and how they can be a part of it, which is what we're trying to accomplish at the end of the day, hopefully more people will be willing and interested and able and proactive enough to tell a friend, invite them to join in, etc. Scarcity. This is a new one in our toolbox, a new machine. A recent change in policy. I described it in a recent episode. I think it was the Excelsior Part 3. Temporarily, at least. Ultimately, it would be counterproductive to be an elitist organization rather than egalitarian. But temporarily, not everyone can participate in what we're up to. Not to say that we're going to tell you to go away, but inviting anyone and everyone, it's a nice idea. But as we exit the civic volunteer winter at some point, hopefully in the near future, people who are familiar with civic volunteer organizations and who are motivated to proactively participate with their existing skills, contributing time, effort, and expertise, well, invitation to those who are looking for a way to get started will need to pursue some independent study first. We just don't have the resources to what is called onboard people to get them started and to get the organization itself moving. So temporarily, at least, we're hoping to get more people who have kind of been around the block, kind of know how things work. These are the sorts of people, that sounds odd, but hopefully mentor mentality, right? Those are the people that might say, oh, we have 5 people who want to participate in this and they've never done this sort of thing before. It doesn't have to be coding, it could be anything. So maybe if we have a mentor cadre, people with more experience, more to share, then we'll be able to scale up to more participation from people who are newcomers, not so experienced, who want to try something new. Maybe you like, maybe you're a creative person with artistic abilities. You can draw, you can sculpt, whatever it is, whatever your creative outlet is. But you want to learn more about software development or marketing or testing or co-creation, right? So having the ability to mentor, to share skills, to guide people, that's all part of a culture, cultivation of a culture of innovation. It's too early to say such things. To share knowledge and skills. And by the way, here's a little secret if you're curious, if you've made it this far. Mentoring people is usually educational for all involved. A really good teacher will probably learn something from the students, the people that are being mentored, the people that are learning from this, everybody learns. So it's a good return on investment if we can convince people of that. But ideally, the aha moments will lead to interest, which will lead to those who are not most interested taking those proactive steps. So I've never done this before. Maybe I can contribute a little something by pursuing an independent program of study. Maybe I'll learn how to draw, how co-creation works, how to market, how to do some messaging, how to test things. There's a whole collection of things, not just software. But if you look at it as, I can't go ask for help because there's not enough people, but I can try to learn something on my own. And then as we grow, this sounds like a dodge, but the bottom line is it's really difficult to try to mentor and to try to achieve. And because of the nature of Vegas, you really have to show, don't tell. I mean, that's not necessarily untrue in other places, but Vegas is definitely a show me what you got or I'm not so interested kind of a place. So we really must focus on deployment of ideas, and then we can start growing local innovator participation with all skill levels. Emergency vehicle, production by a street, as always. You never know what you're going to get. So, and honestly, people who are proactive enough to do a little independent study to drive their own learning initially, these are the sorts of people that turn ideas into implementation, which is ultimately what we'd like to do. Not always software, could be any variety of things. Innovation takes many forms, but we cannot have one person be the bottleneck, especially if that one person's making podcasts every week. The fear of missing out, FOMO, everybody's heard that one, I'm sure. This machine needs some of the others I have mentioned already to already have some demonstrable impact. That sentence looks weird as I wrote it. This machine needs some of the others I have mentioned to already have some demonstrable impact. I'm speaking of the other machines. The idea here is to influence a cadre of people who might take notice, pause for a moment, and then exclaim to themselves or to the world out loud, I want to make things better too. So I'd like to be a part of that. And we need to have a kind of a critical mass of demonstrable things and people working on them and enough reach, which we'll get to in the final machine, to have enough people discover and appreciate that they could be a part of these efforts as well. And then ideally we'll reach the end of the scarcity machine. It will burn itself out as we have enough people to mentor and onboard and collaborate across different experience and skill levels. And ultimately, we will be cultivating proactively the culture of innovation of the Greater Vegas area. Finally, the reach. That's usually an internet marketing term. We need to be noticed, both locally and beyond our locality. So beyond Vegas, beyond Clark County, maybe beyond Nevada, in order to accomplish all that we would like to. Local first will be fine. And to be honest, all the simple machines in our collection, of all of them, this one will benefit most from at least some technology, as simple as a website. Like anything else, everything has a website nowadays. But also our Project ACT, the autonomous cohort tessellation, the initiative, Project ACT initiative, and all that it implies with connection, communication, and collaboration across distances, enabling and encouraging discovery of different efforts, cadres, cohorts. Some of the tools and methods under that umbrella, those will all go well towards our reach efforts, get that machine turning at full speed. But still, reach is an important machine or important component of this effort, as are all of these. But reach will be interesting once we get the other machines all working in concert. If we can reach out beyond, while proximal is great, distal, that because of the way the radius works when you're calculating area, as you get farther away, you get just more area, more possibility. You never know what you're going to get, but it will be more. Like Archimedes, we can look at the core triple from this set, agency, necessity, and word of mouth as our starting point tool set. You could say starting points, but starting point with these machines that we have to work with, which is convenient because these have been in place and functioning they've been available for our use for over 3 years since we rebooted ourselves in June of 2022, June 16th, I believe it was. Existing is nice that we have these, but putting these to use is the key part, which, to be honest, we have not been doing as effectively as I think we could. When I say we, just be aware that there's a mirror. For the moment, we're mostly a solo entity. We got to grow our board again and so on. Interesting times. I'm sorry to say, though, as I just literally forgot I wrote this. I'm sorry to say, though, that we has been me for too long, almost a year now, and that obviously does not scale. Hence the scarcity machine to put to use. It doesn't scale at all. And there is no AI to fix that, nor should there be for the stuff we want to accomplish. More humans, more interaction, more collaboration, more human-centric innovation. Technology can be involved. We're not saying no, but more human. I'm not even going to go there for the, no, not going to finish that quote. But we want humans to interact with humans. That's the whole purpose of innovation along the lines that we're pursuing. If you need to move quickly and hit ship dates and you don't want humans getting in the way, well, that's more power to you. We want to make sure that people retain skills and add new ones, and they don't forget how to read, how to write, how to interact, how to engage other humans, especially in co-creation and so on. So that's where that is. Now, making use of these machines, simple though they might be, the ones I just described, and these are not like tangible machines in every case. Usually there's just a notion, but these really require a small cadre of humans who get on the same page and want to and are able to collaborate on their use, on how to make best use of them, for example. In other words, one person can kind of aim for word of mouth spreading of the message, the goals, and so on. But two people working together can almost certainly get more than twice the engagement. That's how force multiplication works with humans, usually. Almost certainly. Forgot the Lee. It's difficult to predict and make claims about the addition, the marginal increase or decrease in productivity with the addition of a person to the cohort, to the workforce, to the team. But I will say it is more likely to be productive in effort if all efforts are not left to a single human as the bottleneck. I'll just tell you right now that doesn't really work out so well. Solopreneurialism, solopreneurship is a thing, but for what we'd like to accomplish, the scope and grandeur of what we'd like to pursue, more than two people will make a huge difference. Now back to work. I'm showing that we're coming up on, we got over 39 minutes. We'll come up on 40 minutes shortly for this episode before I truncate silence. So it might be 38 minutes or something at this moment. But back to work. The example, simple machinery I've just summarized here really does require a collection of humans on the application side, the equivalent of the applied force inputs for simple mechanical machines that we talked about at the beginning of the show. And more importantly, a collection of interested humans on the destination side. If we really want to convert attention to action in the simplest form, inattention to attention also, but generally speaking, we want people to go from to can I be a part of this? And ideally then continue and go ahead and become a part of what we're trying to accomplish. Most of our initiatives are aimed as part of our Apex initiative to make our smart city smarter. Vegas, we're Vegas focused, but not Vegas constrained. We're not Vegas only. We're actually aimed at making any city smarter, whether it is a smart city already, like Vegas is, maybe, not really. There are some things, but there are some other things that could be better. So making our smart city smarter, no matter how smart it is already. But inviting others to participate at a distance is still a fundamental element of our overall plan, implied in the reach machine that I mentioned at the end of our collection of 6 simple machines. But after trying both sides of this coin with how we are pursuing our initiatives, local engagement and participation really are essential. It is the way to make our core initiative efforts progress toward functionality, with the goal being deployment. Software is one element of our overall initiative picture, but it's not just software, hopefully you're not sick of me saying it because I'm going to be saying it a lot. I always do. And we get our local and visitor engagement and so on, but everything we're working on should ideally benefit other places, other people, other localities, cities, towns, etc. And ideally people will learn from what we're trying to accomplish here. And that includes engagement with our many visitors to get their reaction, to get their response, to get their feedback, part of that co-creation process. Let everybody try out our efforts in our city as a showcase, and then others are welcome to it. That's open source in action. Final point. There is no telling when the civic volunteer winter will abate, but I remain optimistic that it will. Here in Vegas anyway. I mean, springtime is here. Maybe the thawing of the civic volunteer winter will commence shortly. In the meantime, and don't forget the Smarter Smart City Challenge coming up in January of 2027. That way we'll get the whole year. So we have the rest of this year to put some tools in place, get those machines cranking, working together, making attention turn into participation. In the meantime, solo pursuits with our available simple machines is always ongoing, more so recently and into the near term. And we shall see what we can accomplish. Who knows? If show me what you got can receive a good answer, and that is, by the way, what drives Vegas. Before I'm interested, you need to show me what you got. Even if it's one person burning double-end candles, we just might make it to spring. Fingers crossed. So that's kind of a deviation for this episode. Just some things to think about in maybe an unusual way. Oftentimes, if you're going to do something, it might be interesting and useful to factor it into achievable modules or chunks or component projects, elements, whatever your preferred division terms are. So that's basically the task at hand, is to attempt to convert attention or lack of it out in the world to interest and ideally participation. So put simply, convert awareness to action, participation. So we'll see how that goes, and that will just be another thing that we can apply updates to through our audio programs such as this one in the future. Although we will get back on track and talk about the Smarter Smart City Challenge and the various components that we can start bringing online. We would have been trying to move much more quickly had people become interested in March, as we were hoping. The fact that 0 people expressed any interest whatsoever is a concern, but part of what it highlights is the fact that we need to put our machines to better use to reach out locally and distally. We need to help get word of mouth moving so that once one person is interested, and then they can tell 2 friends, each of those can tell 2 friends, and so on. If you know the shampoo commercial, you're way ahead of me. So we can put these things to good use to try to get more people to become much more interested in becoming a part of either the Smarter Smart City Challenge, or perhaps the Innovate for Vegas Foundation initiatives, or maybe both. That would be nice. So that's where I'm going to end it for today. Thank you for putting up with my voice, which is enjoying the season change. And so whatever's in the air in Vegas is, you're hearing it right now. Thank you, as always, for listening. Thank you for your support of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation and all of the things we are trying to accomplish. And remember, you can convert that interest and awareness into action, whether or not you have a machine awareness, machine that you're aware of around you. That was a little made up an ending there. So improvisation, something I need to practice. That's it. Thank you again for support, for your listening, for your enjoying this audio program, for sharing it with other friends. Word of mouth. We can start here. Practice. Take care now. Bye-bye.